Hey, what is up you guys? OPPO has been such a popular brand here in the Philippines, and recently they launched a whole slew of new smartphones just a few months back, with one of them being the OPPO A17, the successor to the OPPO A16. So today we thought, hey, why not let's stack them both up and compare how the new OPPO A17 stacks up to its older brother. Cause it's pretty interesting to see a new refresh of a smartphone without any bump in price, as both the OPPO A16 and A17 cost just 7,999 pesos. Are they both practically the same phone, or do we get some improvements here and there in the new OPPO A17? I'm VJ of Yugatech. Let's find out. First, let's take a look at how they are underneath. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, you'll find that both the OPPO A16 and A17 pack in the same processor with the MediaTek Helio G35 chipset, and even the same IMG GE8320 integrated GPU. You'll even find similar RAM and storage options of up to 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage internally. What changes though, is that the OPPO A17, unlike the previous A16, now comes with an extended RAM feature of up to 4 gigs. This is a massive help cause it means that you're less likely to experience any stutter or lag when gaming, video streaming, or day-to-day scrolling. Let's move on to the displays of both phones. For the most part, they are similar with HD+ resolutions and 60Hz refresh rates, but with the OPPO A17's display just being a tad bit bigger at 6.56 inches as opposed to the A16's 6.52-inch display. One notable change is that the OPPO A17 can now get brighter up to 600 nits when under sunlight, while the OPPO A16 only gets up to 480 nits, making the A17 a better choice if you find yourself in bright environment often. Now let's move on to the designs, as this is where we'll see the biggest change of the OPPO A17 from the OPPO A16. The A16's design, as you can see, leans more to the use of a one-piece metal body with a 3D curved edge. However, the A17 has taken another turn in the design department, with it now sporting a premium textured finish at the back made of a leather type material and now flat edges that make it easier to hold. When it comes to actual size and weight, both are practically the same in every aspect, as they both weigh about 190 grams and are about 8.3mm thick. But do note the A17 only comes in lake blue and midnight black, as to the A16's choice of both, plus a space silver finish. So if your main concern is having a silver phone, the A16 is your only choice here. Moving on to the cameras, you'll also see a massive difference in its setup, as the OPPO A17 carries a triple rear camera setup with a 13-megapixel main, 2-megapixel mono lens, and 2-megapixel macro lens. The OPPO A17 in turn has totally revamped its camera module with a dual rear camera setup instead, but sporting a 50-megapixel main and 2-megapixel depth sensor. The front selfie camera also sees a change from an 8-megapixel of the A16 to now a 5-megapixel lens on the A17. When it comes to seeing which is better, you'd really have to look for much of a difference, but we do like the inclusion of the depth sensor on the A17, as it helps to take portrait shots much better. When it comes to video, both phones are capable of shooting at 1080p at 30 frames per second on both the front and rear cameras. Now, one drastic change, and it's a sad one. For some apparent reason, OPPO has decided that the A17 wouldn't be charged via USB-C like its older brother the A16. No, they decided that it would be charged by micro USB. This is quite a big bummer cause it is 2022 and having micro USB on a smartphone is simply outdated to say the least. Other changes of the OPPO A17 include a step up to Bluetooth 5.3 instead of Bluetooth 5.0 on the A16, and the update to ColorOS 12.1 based on Android 12 rather than Android 11 on the A16. But some other things stay the same, like the battery at 5000 mAh on both models, dual nano SIM card slots, and a micro SD card slot, and the option to either go with a side fingerprint scanner or facial recognition. Well, that wraps up our comparison of the OPPO A16 with the newer OPPO A17. Are any of the changes for the better or for the worse? That's up for debate depending on who you ask. But for me, I do like the new design of the OPPO A17 as opposed to the A16, but the inclusion of the micro USB port instead of a USB-C is quite sad, since I'd like all my devices to be on USB-C. But if that's not such a deal breaker for you, then the OPPO A17 does seem like a slight step up from its predecessor in almost every area, from the RAM, design, cameras, and display. Once again, this has been VJ of Yugatech, and I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments on whether you'd get the OPPO A17 or the A16. Be sure to leave a like cause I and the Yugatech family do appreciate it a ton. Hit that notification bell to be updated as well on all our YouTube videos, and follow us on our social media platforms like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And lastly, be sure to check out our site, yugatech.com, for the absolute best news and reviews on tech you can find here in the Philippines. See ya!